What do you say to the naysayers who are like, oh, I don't need that? Or, again, if they come up with like, well, we don't really do that much dangerous work around here. How do you combat that to kind of really get that business to see that actually, yeah, you really do need this?
And, that's common. I mean, it's hard a lot of the time to convince people why they need to spend money, right? Unless they're putting out a fire and they have to spend it at that exact moment. I just did a webinar the other day, was a guest on someone's webinar, and the title was Going Beyond Damage Control, which is what I really try to hammer home with people. You're going to pay less money ultimately if you pay at the outset to be prepared and put preventative measures in place rather than, the SHIT hits the fan and you're putting out fires. And, at the end of the day, if people resist and they don't want to spend the money, I don't push too hard. I'm like, that's fine. If you know where to find me if and when you figure out that you do want to look into this.
Sure.
And a lot of times, I'll talk to people for, a number of phone calls and for a decent length of time, before I really am going to push to engage with them. I mean, I don't need people to, start getting out their checkbook just to have a couple of phone calls with me. And so, those first few phone calls and really talking with people and educating them, I think does sort of make them come to their own realization as to why it's important.
Sure. For anyone who is looking to go out and start their own business, what would be your number one piece of sage advice for them?
At least in the very beginning, to come up with a schedule for yourself, for your days, at least a general framework, because I think it can be very easy to, sort of let yourself loose, and then maybe a couple of days go by and you're like, realizing that you're not as structured. I mean, particularly, if you've spent many years in a structured type workday environment, I imagine it can be pretty easy to sort of let a little bit too loose, maybe.
Yeah. Well, or almost, because there's that, or you can also swing to the other side, right? Like I'm thinking of you, getting up earlier or working late. Like the beauty of that is you can make your own schedule, but you're right. If you don't set up some sort of goal for yourself, the day can just get away from you. And
totally
in both directions, either you've got nothing done or you don't know when to shut off and say, okay, it's 9:00. I should have really shut the laptop 3 hours ago.
I try to do it. I don't plan my schedule like weeks and months ahead of time, but every night I sort of try to loosely plan out my schedule for the next day, just so that I like have some guidance when I know what time I want to wake up, and I have some guidance as to how I want my day to go and what I want to accomplish, and sometimes you get to check off everything on your to-do list and more, and sometimes you might only check off one thing, but at least you have a general guide as to what your goals are for that day.